So the hype is real. Steven Wilson's new album is coming out in a couple of months, and we have a few teaser tracks to ease us in there. The first of which that was released was Pariah, and the other one was The Same Asylum as Before. Now, both of these tracks I haven't really quite connected with, but I feel like that's kind of the status quo whenever I'm being introduced to a new Steven Wilson song. I mean, there are the exceptions. There are a few that I latched onto right away and just devoured, but here we find on this fifth studio project of To the Bone, it's much more intimate album so far, at least within the promotional aspect of it. We have the front cover that looks like this, and it's the first time that we get an unobstructed view of Steve Wilson. Up to this point, all of his albums have been some kind of an obstructive view. I mean, his first album, he had the gas mask. On the second one, it was just a silhouette. The third and fourth album, we didn't even see him on the album cover at all. But this one, we find a pure, like, very intimate photo of him, kind of shirtless, very exposed, very vulnerable. And those essence and those elements are definitely found within the song that I'm going to be talking about, which is Pariah, that features Nanette Tybin. Tybin? I think it's Tybee? Anyway, I'm just going to call her Nanette. Her vocals on this track are haunting. It starts off very similar to, say, like a Tame Impala, and I know that Steven Wilson's a very big fan of this style of music, this very slow, atmospheric, very rhythmic. Feels very much like, say, like a No Man or those spacey, early kind of Porcupine Tree sounds. And so within the music video, because that's kind of the bulk of this piece here, the music video that's followed up with this is very similar to all of those elements that I had been describing before. It's essentially just Steven as well as Nanette just singing it from like the head up. We don't really see any of their bodies, it's just the head singing. And it's done in a very clever black and white. Like, it's not the traditional kind of black and white. It's very oversaturated. It's almost like a flipped contrast as well, without being completely a flipped contrast. I really enjoy kind of the off-kilter feel of the lighting, and it flickers every once in a while, and for like brief snippets it seems like it's like the normal lighting, which is very similar to kind of like the theme of the song as well. This theme of this pariah, this outcast who has some kind of a historical baggage with him, is trying to start over again and redeem themselves. And that's where this the female vocals come into play, where she's saying, you know, believe in me, believe that we can get through this, believe that, you know, things will change and that we can move on from here. I'd like to think that this is more of like two parts of the same person that are singing to one another within the same kind of being. Like, I can't really speak too much about the song because it's just self-contained, and with Steven, it's always got a broader scope within how it's going to fit within the rest of the album, so I can't really talk too much about that. What I do enjoy is when the colors are brought into the music video. It's brought about from Nanette, and she is just bringing this really big passion out into the forefront. And that's when we get the explosion of color, and it's a very big contrast, almost hopeful essence. And I think this is, if, you know, I were to interpret this, this is when the individual who's kind of the embodiment of these two individuals, if that's how I want to interpret it, that's when the hope is starting to come about, because we've got, you know, the entire time he's kind of dealing and battling with himself, but this is like the, not necessarily the rage against the whole system, but more of like the optimistic rage, and that's where we got the colors coming in. And we've got like that explosion of colors, and we can see Steven's face within the explosion of colors that I thought was a really interesting thing. It's unfortunate because I've seen a lot of these things already. Like, I always kind of picture Steven Wilson as being a very contemporary and right at the edge of the creativity process, and like discovering things instead of reinventing things that are already here. And I felt like that was kind of what was going on within the color explosions. I also found it interesting that it was Nanette singing that brings the color back into kind of herself, and the black and white comes back when Steven starts singing again. Overall, it's a really interesting track. I've been listening to this one a lot more than The Same Asylum, just because I connect with it a little bit more. It's a little bit more haunting. I'm planning just to kind of hold off on any of the new material from To the Bone, and instead I'm going to revisit all of Steven Wilson's past works, just the solo stuff. Because if you know Steven Wilson, He writes a lot, so within the next coming weeks, I'm going to be putting out one review for each of the albums: Insurgents, Grace of Drowning, The Raven That Refused to Sing. I've already done Hand Cannot Erase, so I think I'll hold off on doing that, but you'll definitely get the next three in the coming weeks leading up to the new album To the Bone, so keep an eye out for that. Anyway, that's about it. That's my first take. I'm really excited for the new project, and I'm really excited to hear where this is going to go and where the two songs that he's already released will fit into the overall structure of the album. So, that's about it. What do you guys think about this new album and the two songs that have been released for it? Have you loved them? Have you hated them? Are you excited for the new album? Let me know of your own thoughts by commenting down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.